Hi everyone, Plus-sizeAlbert here. I wanted to tell you guys about my experience in Boy Scouts. And I'm going to start off by saying, now this is basically what Boy Scouts is nowadays. Because back then, like old Boy Scouts, far different from what it was today. At least what I could gather. And let me start off by saying, giving you the structure of the Boy Scouts. So for those who don't know, in Boy Scouts you have troops. Now, they're basically big gatherings of scouts, and in those troops you have patrols. And in those patrols are given names. For example, Radioactive Rebels was one, or Bacon Brawls, just random little funny names like that. And in there is kind of where the problem lies in the structure of the Boy Scouts. And what I mean by that is that, and sometimes the structure of the Boy Scouts is fun, like how I remember having this sort of camaraderie because at a camporee, which is basically where multiple troops gather to compete and get rewarded the top troop in that whole tri-county area, or heck, even tri-state, which I think that's called a jamboree. I've never been to that, though. A lot of times there are rivalries between different troops. For example, our rival was Troop 127, or 126, rather. I believe it was 126. I'm not going to say what troop I was in, but that's basically who our rival was. And their troop was, I think, like 6 people, and we had 50. Yet they won all the time. It was kind of like our troop's mission to like try to beat them and win at least once, because anytime they were there, they won. And so that part is fun. But with the structure, I mean, a lot of times, and I understand this probably out of necessity, because then there might be biases or whatever it might be. But the purpose of Boy Scouts is to rank up and eventually get to what's called Eagle Scout. And in order to get there, you need to complete requirements. And in those requirements, there's lots of paperwork. And they allow you to advance in the ranks, not based on how well you complete a task, but how many papers you can churn out on that paperwork. And in my opinion, that is the wrong way to go, because we're supposed to be teaching people how to survive in the woods, but we're teaching them how to work in an office. I understand that's part of life, but then they'll go to business school, or they'll go to some other organization to do that when they're supposed to be teaching the scouts on how to build a fire and how to carve wood in order to make a knife, and how to fish and how to skin a fish and how to make a snare. But they don't do that. They sometimes do that, but there's lots of paperwork that comes with it. And I think that's just not good, and that's not healthy. But besides that, if you are fine with the paperwork, there is another challenge. Is in patrols. When you first join the Boy Scouts, you are put into a patrol. And the problem with patrols is that if your patrol is full of either toxic people, like just rude people for no reason, or morons, then you are absolutely screwed. It's very rare where you can actually do something about that. It's a very group effort. That's what they try to establish, a group effort, but they forget that group doesn't even want to be there in the first place. A lot of times, other times you can be put into a patrol and it can be very fun. And then instead of those morons, like actual morons, it becomes like silly goofballs that actually are fun to be around. And that's the kind of the part where it comes in. I remember a story of a kid, we're going to call him Carl. We were basically referencing to each other that scene from Full Metal Jacket with the Vietnamese prostitute. She was like, "Me so horny, me so nah," and those guys, they were like, he got his camera stolen and like that whole scene, and then we were referencing it to Carl, and he thought it was funny, and so when we walked back into camp, Carl walked in and he said, "One bucky sucky sucky." We're like, "Dude, Carl, shut up!" And it's of course because we don't want anyone to hear us. We might get in trouble, and so sometimes it'll be very fun like that, and even if you're with a fun patrol, you get put into a canoe or like some sort of a boat, or you have to carry a boat or some sort of thing that you have to do as a group effort. It can be frustrating, but very funny and fun at times. But the problem with that is that once you get like that sort of camaraderie and you start goofing around with your patrol, someone comes along and tells you to move it along. You got to do this or you got to do that, which of course is understandable, but a lot of times it ruins that probably the only joy on Boy Scout trips, because a lot of times, especially summer Boy Scout camps, which are summer Boy Scout camps where you stay a whole week rather than just 2 nights or a weekend. A lot of times the staff and almost basically everyone you run into don't want to be there. A lot of everyone is pretty toxic, and it seems people at regular summer camp seem much more cheerful than Boy Scouts, infinitely more cheerful. A lot of times I didn't know what it was. I think a lot of those kids that were in the Boy Scouts, they had strict dads. I heard about something where one of the scouts mouthed off to his dad who was participating on the trip, and he got like slammed up against a tree, just something real intense. And so they just didn't want to be there. They didn't really care about anything, which of course, not that I didn't care about, that I cared about it anymore, but we're supposed to be doing a task. And when you can't even talk to me without giving me a snarl, and not even just me, to anyone of, I remember in one of my troops, the good troops that I was in, the patrol that I was in, people from other patrols would mouth off to them for no reason. And it was completely just real toxic, and it just was not fun at all. You think the scouts would be toxic. Oh, they don't want to be there. The staff are probably better. No, the staff may be worse. I remember one day at a camp in Oregon, we had to take a train to get there. And funny part about it is that every single person I talked to said that the train was the funnest part of the trip. So that just tells you something. So anyway, about the camp, there was a firearms instructor. We got to shoot, which was very cool about Boy Scouts. We got to shoot guns. Most of the time it was just 22 rifles, but sometimes you'd get to shoot shotguns, 20 gauge shotguns, which is what we were going to do at this one part. You would walk up, a lot of mosquitoes at this camp. I don't know if I want to say the name of the camp, but it's in Oregon and it's near Chemult, the town of Chemult. I'm just going to say that. And it was these 2 firearms instructors on this shooting range that was like a little bit outside of the camp. You had to walk there. And on the first day of going there, one out of 2 of the firearms instructors was the most angry person I had ever seen. And I don't mean just someone who's ex-military who also works on a shooting range, because usually they're firm and they're like, and they talk, they're brash, and of course you expect it. That's fine. That's who they are. They need attention, and they need to get people's attention. That's totally fine. And plus they're in the military. That's kind of a lot of times a trait that they have when they come out. But this guy, he was not firm. He was nasty. And the night before, he explained you need to sign what I forget the official name, but these blue cards about this merit badge in order to submit yourself into this merit badge, which is what shotgun shooting at this camp was. It was a merit badge. And some kids didn't fill it out correctly or forgot to fill it out, which is absolutely understandable because there is so much just BS that happens at the camp all the time, which I'd probably forget to put my shoes on if, I wasn't fully awake and I didn't have mosquitoes pecking at my cheek. And he's gritting his teeth and he's pounding the table. And he's about to blow. I see the veins popping out of his face, and I'm looking at the other scouts going, "Oh my God, how could this? Geez, nobody really wants to be here." That's what I'm thinking the entire time. And in fact, I believe I could, of course, this was probably a rumor because I looked at the Google reviews on Google Maps of that camp. And someone said, as we were walking up, this was a year, someone posted it a year after I went there, said, as we were walking up, the firearms instructor was fired as they were walking up. So this guy, I think, got fired. Either he did or some other firearms instructor. And I don't think, I probably wouldn't be surprised. The way he was screaming at the kids, which... Sometimes you have to scream at kids. I understand that. I've screamed at younger scouts myself. Not because I want to, just because I had to. Well, not really. But it was more... I've screamed at scouts. That's all I have to say. But just downright nasty. That's only way I can describe it. Nasty. And... yeah, it's just... and you would ask... I remember walking by... because we wanted to see if we could fish out of this lake. Well, me and like some other kid that I didn't really like, but I was with him. But he was okay. He was annoying earlier on, but then he was a bit cooler. And we were trying to see if we could fish in this lake, which made the camp worse. You could not fish in the lake. It was way too shallow. The fish were out in the deep end. And we're walking by, and this 20-something-year-old staff member says, "Where are you guys going?" Just screams at us. And I thought, well, we're seeing if we can go back here. He goes, "No, you can't go back there." Who the hell are we? Anyway, it's just those. And a couple of stories that's pretty much the gist of it. And I guess now I'll just tell you some funny stories that I remember from Boy Scouts. I remember one day there was an event I was not aware of. It was at night. Everyone was gathered around the campfire. I went to go to the water cooler to brush my teeth, to get some water to brush my teeth. And as I'm pouring myself some water, I see something black and white skirtle under the bench. And I go, "Oh, snap, that's a skunk." And I yell, "Skunk, there's a skunk!" To the rest of the people. They're gathered around the fire. They look at me. And then they look back at the fire, and I'm like, "Who am I? Chopped liver?" Like, I'm thinking, why the hell did they not hear me? Like, is there a skunk? I walk over to the campfire to see what's going on. They are retiring an old American flag. Which is what you do. You fold it up and you put it into the fire, but respectively, not as a flag burning. And I didn't know about this, so I'm just screaming and hollering as they're having a very not really religious, but very patriotic, very spiritual event. And some other scouts were like, "Dude, that was kind of unnecessary." But then I explained to them, like, "No, I didn't even know this was happening." They're like, "Oh, okay." But yeah, it's really a give and take. If you are set on college, because that's one of the main things why people join Boy Scouts, to get Eagle, because Eagle Scout looks great on college resumes, or on admission letters, I guess. If you are in it for that and you're on top of everything, you're very paperwork wise, you're very nerdy, but you also not nerdy, but book smart, and you also want to know how to light a fire, then Boy Scouts is for you. But if you're a person looking for an outdoor experience without paperwork, and where everyone is involved and want to be there, Boy Scouts is not for you. Because where Boy Scouts shines, it often is that shine is rubbed out and placed with some other shine that is fake and that isn't very fun to do. And so, like I said, if you're on top of your grades and you want to have a good college resume, then join Boy Scouts. And that's all I really have to say. That is my experience. Not all experiences are the same, of course, but yeah, that's what I think. Let me know if you've had an experience like that. I know I'm pretty sure I have a good gauge on. I believe Boy Scouts has been getting worse over the years. A lot of people also believe that, since they've been allowing like girls into Boy Scouts, and not that that's the downfall, but that's like one of the symptoms. They're just trying to get more bodies in. They're not really trying to teach their people. They're just like trying to not really make money, but they're trying to just trying to stuff people into this already crowded and needed for attention space. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.